For the Detroit Lions, over the last couple of seasons, they've been known to have one of the best offenses. However, their defense has been somewhat lacking. But could this be the year that Aaron Glenn finally has the breakthrough season that Lions fans have been hoping for? We're going to talk about it in this episode, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are? And what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Lions fans, and welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. So here's the thing, folks. When we talk about the Lions, for most Lions fans, the last 3 years that we've gone through have been an absolutely amazing kind of whirlwind of, going from being one of the worst teams in the NFL with a lot of hope to now we're one of the best teams, and we're kind of like, hey, we're knocking on the door. We are just about there. We are just about ready to claim the ultimate prize that has been eluding us for, forever and a day. Now, the Lions have become a Super Bowl contender. We all know that. They have become a player and a coach destination. Everybody knows that. They're one of the best teams. They're one of the top teams in the NFL in terms of talent, in terms of marketability, and also in terms of what success they can have in the future. And while all of this has been an absolutely awesome experience to behold for us Lions fans, it's something that we are really reveling in. There, however, remains one fly in the ointment, and it has gnawed at Lions fans. It's gnawed at the fan base for the last 3 years, but particularly the last 2 years, and that's the defense. Now, for most Lions fans, most national analysts as well, the defense has kind of been viewed as the Achilles heel of the Lions. Now, to be fair, because that's the whole point of today's episode, is me trying to be fair to, the defense and Aaron Glenn, but at the same time being like, listen, this is where we were, this is where we are, now here's where we're trying to go. Let's be fair here to Aaron Glenn and the defense. It's not that the defense hasn't shown promise, or that it hasn't shown growth. Those have been there, especially last season. It did show promise, it has shown growth. However, we have to put things in perspective here. For the defense to be in comparison to the offense that has garnered a lot of attention and a lot of praise, the defense has been woefully lackluster in comparison. Because if you think about it, the Lions defense has gotten a substantially much more amount of investment since Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have shown up 3 years ago. And I have talked about this multiple times on this channel, and I've talked about it at great length exclusively and extensively. But I'm going to once again kind of reiterate it for this whole segment because it has been a while since I have talked about it. So I'm going to put it back in here so that way we can kind of refocus our attention on it. And then that way, again, we have ourselves a base of operations. We have ourselves an understanding of where we are talking about here. So we know that Brad Holmes has been the Detroit Lions GM for the last 3 years, and that means he's had 3 drafts under his belt. In the total time that he's been the GM, he has had 23 total draft picks. 13 of those total draft picks that Brad Holmes has had have gone exclusively to the defense. Now again, I'm not a mathematician, but it's pretty simple math. 13 divided by 23, that is a total of 56.5% of Brad Holmes' draft picks have gone exclusively to the defense. So almost 60% of Brad Holmes' picks have gone exclusively defensive. Now, let's keep going down this little rabbit hole. Of those 23 picks, 9 of those picks have been used on the defense in terms of picks that were third round, higher, or value. So what I'm saying here is, of the 23 picks that Brad Holmes has had, 9 of them have been used in third round, second round, or first round, or higher on the defense. So again, you are talking about high value draft capital. You're not just talking about whatever kind of draft capital you're using. You're talking about high draft capital that has been used on defensive players, which typically means you are getting some of the best players that are available, in theory, in the draft. And the reason why I say in theory is because this doesn't always translate to reality. But when it comes to Brad Holmes, I would say that theory is a little bit more of a successful one, because typically when Brad Holmes drafts, it typically works. And then finally, again, the way I try to look at this, what makes this more troublesome is, again, we're talking about 23 draft picks, folks. And we are talking about the fact that of those 23 draft picks, Brad Holmes has had 14 total draft picks of the 23 that have been in the third round or higher. So that right there already tells me something. When you've had 14 of your 23 picks that are third round or higher in terms of where you picked, that tells me more than half of Brad Holmes' picks to begin with have been in the third round or higher. Well, again, 9 of those 14 total picks that are in the third round or higher have been to the defense. So again, the whole point I'm trying to make here is this. Brad Holmes almost, I wouldn't say almost exclusively. That's a little bit too much. But for the majority of his time as the GM, he has been spending a lot of time and investment to try and fix the defense. Because if you think about it, 9 out of the 14 draft picks that have been in the third round or higher have gone to the defense. That's 64.3% of Brad Holmes' top draft picks have gone to the defense, which is typically like top 100 picks or higher. That right there tells me that Brad Holmes has done a lot to try and fix, to try and make Aaron Glenn's defense work. Now, why is that particularly troublesome? The reason why is that despite the investment that Brad Holmes has made in the draft, and it's not just the draft, he's also done it in free agency, but the draft is where Brad Holmes has done the majority of his work. Despite the investment that Brad Holmes has made into Aaron Glenn's defense over the last 3 years, again, the investment has simply not matched the productivity on the field. And again, the offense has gotten significantly less in terms of overall investment in comparison to the defense, but yet the offense is a top 5 unit. The defense is not a top 5 unit, at least not yet. It's had qualities that have been top 5 or top 10, but it is not a overall top 5 or top 10 unit like the offense has been for the last 2 years. So again, that is why this is a particularly troublesome aspect of this whole, reality that the Lions have had to deal with for the last couple of years. Because let's just put this in perspective. We're going to take a look at how the offense has produced over the last 2 years, so 2022 and 2023, versus what the defense has been able to do over the last 2 years. And we're taking a look at just the biggest statistical outputs that those two sets of groups can do. So let's take a look at the offense really quickly. We're going to be taking a look at scoring offense in terms of points, pass offense, rush offense, and scoring drive percentage. Then when we go over to defense, I'll describe what specific stats we're looking at in that regard. But in 2022, for the offense, the Lions had the 5th best offense in terms of scoring. They had the 6th best offense in terms of passing. They had the 11th best offense in terms of rushing. And they had the 3rd best offense in terms of scoring drive percentage. So again, you are talking about a very, very prolific offense. Every single one of those is top 10 except the rushing offense. And it wasn't like it was off by a lot. It was right there. So again, 2022, you have a damn good offense. But then, for the Lions offense in 2023, they upped it. They went even better. Yes, in 2023, they still had the 5th best scoring offense. But then they had the 2nd best passing offense. They had the 5th best rushing offense. And then they had the 8th best scoring drive offense. So again, everything except the scoring drive went up or stayed the same. So again, you are talking about how this offense being run by Jared Goff and being maintained by Ben Johnson has been absolutely dynamic. It has been explosive since 2022, which is why I say the Lions offense has been considered one of the best in the league for the last couple of years. However, though, on the opposite side of that coin, on the defense, the Lions have only managed to realistically be a bottom third to a dead last defense. And I'm trying to be as fair and real about this as possible because we're going to take a look at most points allowed. We're going to take a look at passing yards allowed. We're going to take a look at rushing yards allowed, drive percentage allowed as terms of points scored, and total sacks. Because if you take a look at 2022 and you take a look at those stats for the Lions defense, they were 29th in the NFL for points allowed. They were 30th in terms of passing yards allowed, 29th in rush yards allowed, 29th in scoring drive percentage, and they were tied 18th in sacks that they garnered. So again, very, very, very pathetic. I'm just sorry. You could use pitiful, pathetic. There's a lot of words you could use, but the only good statistical ranking that the Lions had in 2022 was the sack total. Then you move to 2023. In 2023, the Lions defense got better, and that is an improvement. It is showing progress, but it wasn't as good as what we were looking for as far as the totality of the defense. What do I mean? The Lions were 23rd in terms of most points given up. They were 27th in terms of passing yards allowed. They were 2nd in terms of rushing yards allowed. That was great. They were 21st in terms of scoring drive percentage, and they were tied 23rd in terms of sacks garnered. So again, every single group got better. We got better in terms of how many points we were giving up. We got better in terms of how many passing yards we were giving up, and in terms of how many yards we gave up, and in terms of scoring drive percentage. All of those got better. Some substantially a lot better than others. The only area where we got less in terms of rankings was sacks. So, what I'm trying to demonstrate here with these two statistical sets of rankings between the offense and defense over those 2 years is that it is evident that Aaron Glenn's defense has not been meeting the standard that either he or the Lions fans are looking for. But again, that does not mean that there hasn't been improvement, as I was clearly trying to demonstrate. The Lions, as I just shown, went from one of the worst rushing defenses in 2022 to the second best one in 23, which is a significant improvement overnight, in essence. Now, I'm also going to say this. That is great. The rest of the rankings, again, they're still a bit unslightly, but it still shows that they're way better than the previous year. Now, again, the sacks are not where the Lions fans would like it either. I mean, in 2022 we had 39, in 2023 we had 41. So again, it's not like we can't get sacks, it's just that we're not getting as many as we would like, especially with all the defensive talent we've pumped into that line. But again, I will remind all, in 2023, pardon me, the numbers are starting to get to me. In 23, the Lions had the number one pressure ranked defense in terms of total overall pressures. We had 187, which that is largely in thanks to Aiden Hutchinson. So what I'm trying to get here is this, is that the Lions defense has made strides in terms of where they were to where they are last year. And I expect that from last year, they're going to make even further strides. And here's my reasoning as to why. Let's understand something here. I've said this before in a previous episode, and I'm going to mention it again here. The growth of the previous draft picks. Again, when you take a look at all of Brad Holmes' draft picks, they have shown exponential growth from year to year to year. And for me, you start to take a look at the fact that the Lions have invested so much through the draft on defense. Aiden Hutchinson, Ali McNeil, Kirby Joseph, Ife Melifonwu. They got Jack Campbell last year. They got Brian Branch last year. These are all guys that are headlining a group of players that have been impact players, either just having arrived, like Campbell and Branch, or have been here for a couple of years, and they were able to impact gradually, or they were able to impact from day one. The whole point I'm trying to say is this. Take a look at Hutchinson. Like I said, 9.5 sacks his first year, went to 11.5 sacks. You take a look at McNeil. He was considered kind of like a mid-range kind of defensive tackle. Now he's considered one of the best in the NFL. Kirby Joseph is just an interception machine. He's a ball hawk. Melifonwu, he definitely took some time to develop, but last year we saw a really great flash out of him. We're hoping to see the exact same thing. Jack Campbell, I think, has the potential to be one of the better linebackers in the NFL. He had a pretty good year for his rookie year, still was learning some things, but he looked pretty good. Brian Branch has the ability to be both a safety and a nickel cornerback that can move seamlessly between the two. So there's quite a lot as far as growth that can still be brought out of all of those players, and some of them have already been here for a couple of years. And I expect that they're going to continue to grow, which means that they're going to continue to get better, and likewise, the defense is going to get better, especially as they continue to grow more confidence and garner more experience as players. So again, I believe that that's going to significantly help, and then that's going to lead into the second reason why I think this is going to help. Getting more reinforcements, which is going to especially help in the defensive line and in the secondary. And when I'm talking about the defensive line, I'm specifically talking about the pass rushing group element. I'm talking about edge rushers. Because as I mentioned, the Lions are expected to add more defensive help this offseason, which they have spent quite a lot doing that in free agency. But now they're expected to do it also in the draft. The belief is that the Lions are going to target a cornerback and an edge rusher at some point in this draft. We just don't know specifically where. Is it going to be early? Is it going to be in the mid-rounds? We don't know. But depending upon what the Lions do on draft night, which is tomorrow, the Lions could potentially have a heavy interest in going after one of the top cornerbacks, and I particularly hope that they do, and a lot of Lions fans also hope that they do, in going after Kool-Aid McKinstry. Now, that does not mean that's the only potential option that the Lions could go at terms of 29. They could trade up, they could trade back. That's another potential. They also could potentially go after a guy like Chopper Darius Robinson. That is another set of players that has been possible options that the Lions have been potentially linked to. But my whole point of the matter is this, is that the Lions have options. They are not particularly, I would say, anchored or pigeonholed to one specific player or one specific group. Again, best player available, best talent available for the positions of need that the Lions have. So again, there's a lot of intrigue this year that's surrounding what Brad Holmes' decision is going to be, because nobody really knows one way or the other what he's going to do. And I'm going to be honest, I don't even think Brad Holmes knows yet, because it's kind of one of those things where you have to wait until you're actually in the moment to figure out, well, how do I go about this? The whole point I'm trying to get at here is that with the growth of the previous draft picks that I'm talking about, plus with the expected reinforcements, I expect that the Lions defense is going to continue to get better, and we're going to continue to see further growth and further improvement. Now, finally, the familiarity concept, the continuance concept. This is simply just a comfort thing. When you talk about it, Aaron Glenn has been in charge of the Lions defense for the last 3, now going on 4 seasons. So for the players that have been there since the very beginning, players like Alex Anzalone and a couple of others, there is a great comfort in knowing what to expect from your coaches, especially when it's the defensive coordinator. Furthermore, Aaron Glenn has largely kept the same scheme since he got here. There was a significant change from year 1 to year 2, but for the last 2 years, Aaron Glenn has primarily been running the same defensive type of scheme, which is a 4-2-5. Now, that is also going to allow the players to get more comfortable. It's going to allow them to continue to get better, because if you continue to maintain the same process, the same scheme, you can get better with what you already have rather than constantly changing everything up. So again, the players are comfortable with their coach. We were told last year they like their coach. They're going to get more experience in the scheme. And when you get more experience, you get more comfortable, you get better. You get more talent added through the draft. That's also going to help. So my whole point is that it's kind of stacking itself one on top of the other here. When you start doing all this stuff, you should, in theory, be better for it. You should, in theory, continue to show progress, which is why I'm saying that I believe the Lions, based upon all these points I'm putting out there, should be able to make this work, and the defense should be able to make the breakthrough that we're looking for. Now, this is where I'm going to kind of try and bring this back into reality for some Lions fans, because I'm going to say this. For some Lions fans, some of which are regulars on my show, and you all know who I'm talking about here, they are and they have been done with giving Aaron Glenn chances. They have been done for quite a while. They've been wanting him gone for at least 2 years, and trust me, I was right there with them. And I understand their frustration. I understand their pain. I understand their animosity to wanting to give Aaron Glenn another chance. But as I stated, as long as Dan Campbell is here, Glenn's not going anywhere. He's not getting fired. So it's like, okay, with that understanding, the Lions already know that Aaron Glenn is going to be a staple here unless he gets a head coaching job in the offseason, because I just don't see a way that Dan Campbell fires Glenn. I can't see it. Unless his defense completely bombs, I can't see a way Campbell fires him. I just can't see it. Now, that also brings us into the reality of the situation that Aaron Glenn has gotten a lot of head coaching interviews over the last 3 years, and multiple times that he's gotten those interviews, never once has a team really seriously shown much interest in him and actually decided to say, hey, he's one of our top candidates to get a job. So it's like, listen, us Lions fans, particularly the ones that don't like Aaron Glenn or have had a problem with him in the past, we have to continue to give him another chance because Dan Campbell has given him another chance. And while that might be distasteful to some, I trust Dan Campbell's ability to understand and assess the team's situation more than anybody else, because it's like, listen, Dan Campbell has yet to steer us wrong yet. He has shown great progress and great improvement every single year that he's been at the helm of the Lions team. I mean, 3-13-1 and 9-8 to 12-5. So it's like, listen, despite my deep reservations, despite my, apprehension about giving Glenn another chance, despite giving Glenn another opportunity to show what he's capable of doing, I have to, because I trust Dan Campbell and because I have to keep hoping that, like I said, maybe this is the year that Aaron Glenn will finally be able to get this defense to break through and match the freaking offense of the Detroit Lions. Because what my logic is trying to prove here is that, hey, we're seeing these defensive players get better and better. We saw improvement from 2022 to 2023, not only in terms of how the defense played on the field, but also in terms of the statistics. So as far as I'm concerned, when you add another draft class, you add another year of the scheme, you add another everything on top of that, in theory, it should result in the defense finally being able to be at least an average defense to an above average defense. That's all I'm asking for. I'm just asking for an average to an above average defense. If we had that, we could be able to win a Super Bowl. That's how good the damn offense is. That is something I truly 100% believe. Now, if I got more than that, I'd be absolutely happy. Amazed even. But I'm not going to bank on the defense being a top 10 unit all of a sudden. I would love it, but I'm not banking on it. I'm just asking for this defense to at least be above average. That's what I want. But anyway, that's why I'm saying this needs to be the year that Aaron Glenn breaks through and the defense reaches its full potential. Because at this point, we've now gone through 4 years of this. Aaron Glenn has had more time, more resources than anybody else on that team to being able to try and say, I finally have what I need to make this defense work. This is kind of like, hey, you need to get your shit in a group. Sorry to put it so bluntly, but that is the truth of the matter. But anyway, I'm going to end the episode here really quickly. And I'm going to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. I also encourage y'all please to do one of these 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and not had a chance to do so, again, highly encourage y'all to subscribe. It helps out the channel. It helps me out. But I also encourage y'all please to make sure you also hit that bell notification icon at the bottom of the page, so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. I also encourage y'all please to share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. The more we can share it, the greater the channel grows, the greater the channel spreads. And with that, I just want to say to everybody again, you guys are an amazing, awesome community. I'm so thankful for each and every one of y'all. I also want to say thank you all for all that you've done, not only in terms of talking and communicating with each other, but also with myself. I hope you all have had a great day. I hope you all have got something that makes you happy and it makes you smile. And I hope, more importantly, you guys also enjoyed the content. And with that, I just want to say, everyone, God bless. The draft is almost upon us. And until the next time we meet, I'll see y'all in the next episode.